So I think that everything is important, but there are varying degrees of importance. So I think first off, things that are not alive are not as important as things that are alive. And next, I think things that are alive but not conscious, or not like trees and plants, are less important than things like animals. And I think the higher level of consciousness that an animal has, it becomes more important. So that would put like dolphins being more important than mice, and people being more important than all the animals. And just kind of, that should affect how we interact with those things. So like, it's not okay to hurt an animal for fun, but it might be okay to break a rock for fun, and that kind of thing, because they have different levels of importance.
So how do you explain the levels of importance from cutting down a tree to get paper to use for like a journal or a book,
Right.
as to killing an animal to use its meat or fur?
Right. And I think that as long as you're using them, that is important, because that goes back to the higher levels of consciousness. So because as people, we have a higher level of consciousness than the animals, it's okay for us to use them as long as we're using them. If we're just cutting them down for fun, then it's not as okay if we're using them.
Is there a different level of importance of use, like you were saying with
Yeah.
fur, or just cutting down for
Yeah.
wood and paper?
So yeah, what you use it for is also important. So like you said, if you just cut down a tree because you wanted to cut down a tree, that's less okay than cutting down a tree to get timber or to get paper.
As far as levels of importance for things that are alive and not alive, have you thought of like soil, how that's not alive,
Yeah,
but it can function as living things without that?
right. Yeah,
Are they
and
on the same level?
I think it's not on the same level because it's not alive and it's not conscious. But I think it's still important. I think everything has intrinsic value. So I think all dirt, all rocks, everything is important. And just because there are things that are more important than it shouldn't diminish how important it is. So we should still take care of it because it is important.
So what's an example of where you can think of where something might come in conflict with your, this ethic, and how would you solve it?
So, for example, like SeaWorld or different places, some places use like dolphins and large whales and killer whales and things like that for entertainment.
Okay.
And that doesn't fit very well into my ethic of saying, hey, this animal has a very high level of consciousness, and how we're using it is not very effective. It's not very good. We're not respecting its level of consciousness very much. But other people might say that there's enough of a difference between us and them that it's okay. So that might be how somebody else sees it differently than me.
So do you have, like, this is interesting, you value these different levels, and I don't know if you've thought them out, but let's just put out there a hypothetical thing. Let's say somebody was really hungry and they were in danger of starving, but they were on an island and there was a pool where some dolphins were trapped.
Right.
And this person could use them for food.
Right, and I think because...
Tell me about your ethic,
Right.
and what would you...
My ethic there is that because they are a higher level of thinking and cognitive ability than the dolphins, that their needs come first. And it's okay for them to kill the dolphins and eat the dolphins. Especially if they're in a situation where they need that. But if they're in a situation where they don't need that, they just want that, like say they have plenty of other food, but dolphin might be a delicacy, then it becomes not okay, because they have other options.
Okay.
So with that same example, what about necessary maybe cannibalism?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought, because then it's human to human, and they're at the same level of consciousness. That gets sticky.
Describe your levels of consciousness.
So, okay, so it's it is kind of tricky to describe, and I haven't categorized everything, obviously, but plants, from what I understand, aren't aware. I mean, they interact with the environment, and they change through stimulus and respond to stimulus and stuff, but they don't think, they don't have a brain. And so, they would be, in my system, they would be less important than even very small animals, or animals with very small brains that didn't do a lot of thinking. But then animals that did more thinking and more decision-making, it displayed more complex behaviors, would be more important than those, on up until humans.
Okay, one more, and then I'm gonna go to the next person.
I just wanted to comment, I like plants more than sharks, so
Right,
I think plants for me are more important than the shark.
right. And that's interesting. There are things that we like differently, but the idea is, as a whole, we gotta look at we have to have a way of looking at what's important and what needs have to come before what other needs.
Okay, time out.